What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast. I want to jump right into it. There's a thread by XRP Patience. So if you don't follow him, go follow him. He has some good content for the community. And here, Ripple put out an article or white paper, a CBDC white paper, entitled Why All Central Banks Must Take Action and the Future of CBDCs. Alrighty, let's get into it. So I want to start off, and if you want to read this whole thing, you should. It's really good. But I want to highlight from this point onward. He says a CBDC could be issued and managed using a private version of an existing decentralized ledger. Ripple is here referring to the private XRPL that central banks can install and use to retain control and sovereignty over their currencies. Central banks demand this. Private XRPL provides it. This will give central banks the flexibility and functionality that comes with decentralized ledgers, while retaining enough centralized control over their monetary policies and economic management. Again, the max EV of one world currency is a myth. He goes on to say the article that he's quoting from goes on to say, a neutral bridge asset can support healthy alternative liquidity markets that will allow for frictionless and cost effective value movement between various CBDCs in real time. If all CBDCs use same liquidity pool, no one nation benefits over others. One example of a neutral bridge is the digital asset XRP, which can be used to bridge two different currencies quickly and efficiently. Yet another reference for those who think it's not Ripple's goal to use XRP as a liquidity pool. It always has been and remains so. Now, I think this is very interesting because central banks want to participate. They know that they can't keep up the system that we're currently in, because then they'll lose monetary sovereignty. And they're all about their sovereignty. And make no mistake, I do believe that governments or central banks are behind this whole digital asset movement. And I think that after the great financial crisis, there was the creation of Bitcoin, which came immediately after. And I give a shout out to Digital Asset Investor for also talking about this. And I think that they knew that after the can of worms that they opened in bailing everyone out, or these banks or institutions, that later down the road it would become a bigger issue and you'd need to solve it. And what better way to solve it than with digital assets, providing something that removes all the friction of the system. Now, we know there's going to be a liquidity crisis. Ripple calls themselves a lender of last resort. When there is a liquidity crisis, and I've been running this up your flagpole, there could be either a run on the banks or a freeze that happens. And if that freeze happens, no one's going to be able to access their accounts, causing chaos. Now, these central banks would be issuing and managing here a private version of an existing decentralized ledger. And it allows for central banks to use and retain control and sovereignty over their currencies. They demand this, and the ledger provides this. Okay? And it says central banks would have the flexibility and functionality that comes with the centralized ledgers, right? So they have all the use cases, but they retain enough centralized control over their policies and their economic management. Okay, so this is the ultimate control. Now the issue of velocity is no longer a problem, because it doesn't matter. Like, for example, you can print $7 trillion now. Just because you print that, like 7 trillion times zero is still zero. Velocity hasn't changed. But having a digital financial system in which the banks can control and have enough power over their monetary policies and economic management, now they're able to regulate that velocity of money. Negative interest rates, anyone? I mean, we know that European Central Bank has been talking about negative interest rates. So I'm talking about this because at the end of the day, we know that this is going to give the ultimate power to central banks. And they may be directly associated with the customer, which is us, seeing every single transaction in real time. And they may be able to keep tabs on you. That's not out of the realm of possibility. If you're turning a blind eye to this, then you're being naive. This is happening. It's here. Yeah, we're bullish on the technology and the asset because we know the utility that it brings. But I just want to remind you that Ripple executives have said that XRP was not designed to pay for a cup of coffee. It was designed for banks and money service providers. This was not meant for us. This was a gift to the world. Or banks and money service providers. It was a gift to them. So you have to think about these things. Yes, the technology and the asset itself is fantastic. But you also have to remember what this is all about. Now, Mac Attack, now I'm going to kind of switch gears here. But Mac Attack XRP posted that Hester Pierce hopes that 2021 will be a turning point for crypto regulation in the US. And you best believe that once everything is regulated and clear, it's off to the races. And we don't know what holds in the future exactly, but we have an idea. Now, I want to point out what Hester Pierce, or Purse, however you say her name, she said regulators should commit themselves to providing regulatory clarity so that traditional financial market participants can engage with crypto with confidence that they are complying with regulatory obligations. So, yeah, and this brings to my point about relisting XRP on exchanges. Yeah, there may have been comments made by the SEC lawyer in which stated that only Ripple and its affiliates are illegally selling XRP. And we know that the attorney Jeremy Hogan, said that technically under Section 5, affiliates would be anyone controlled by Ripple. Exchanges aren't controlled by Ripple. So they could legally sell XRP. But like John Deaton said, CEOs are risk averse and they know that there has been government overreach or intrusion. So they may be afraid of relisting. It may not be as easy as we think. Yeah, we may want it, but there may be more to the story than us just wanting it. You know, when Big Brother steps in, it makes people shake. Exchanges shake, CEOs shake. Gotta think about that. We want it. Doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen. But, we'll see what happens. Just something to keep in mind there. Now, I want to point out this video posted by Digital Asset Investor in an interview with Meet Kevin, and I'm blanking on her name right now, but she talks about gold and what's coming and the Great Reset. Take a listen.
Now, it certainly does look like Bitcoin is going to survive this. But at the end of the day, when we get that inflation and they reset the current currency into the new currency, do you think they're going to reset it against Bitcoin or Tesla stock or even real estate? No. They reset it against gold money because it has the greatest functionality of any asset. It is used globally in every single area of the economy. And it's finite and it's indestructible. So we can account for pretty much all of the gold that has ever been mined And there's more than 4,800 cases of currency resets, and 100% of the time they do it against gold.
With central bank stimulus weakening the dollar and gold being only about $100 short of its all-time high, a question has started to arise: can gold replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency? The dollar has enjoyed this status for decades, but since it detached itself from the gold standard in 1971, it's essentially consistently weakened on a macro level. Confidence in the U.S. government and the political system in the U.S. is one of the keys, and gold doesn't have that issue of a loss of confidence. But what it does have is a problem with transportability. That's why it's more likely that a currency backed in gold, or even a digital asset backed in physical gold, could potentially replace the dollar much more easily than the actual physical bar of gold could.
And so, yep, that'll do it. I'm telling you, times are getting interesting, and it's just a matter of watching and seeing where this lawsuit goes. Obviously, we know the utility that XRP brings to the table, and it's just a matter of clearing these hurdles. I hope this episode has brought you some value. Like and subscribe. It's not financial advice. And share with other people and let them know that central banks are looking to retain their monetary control and economic policies. This is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.